Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the PWC qualifier land. It's day number 5 out of 6, and that means we're sending more teams home, and more teams are actually now having a chance to qualify for the big tournament next weekend. Of course, as we get into our next set, I want to make sure we introduce our new desk compatriot here, NT Bays.
That's me.
That's me. That was a horrible, horrible British accent. I'm sorry.
You're outnumbered.
You deserve better.
I'll forgive
Fox,
you.
give me your best British accent.
Excuse you, Evan?
There's too much British on this
You're
desk.
outnumbered right now.
I'm going to try to manage it as best as I can. That's basically where we're at here, guys and girls. Thank you so much for watching. And let's break down, first of all, just quick thoughts on that last set. That was pretty phenomenal to cast for me.
That was a pretty fun set to watch as well. Fair play to the Splice boys. They played phenomenal throughout them sets and some really clutch comebacks in the games as well, which is nice to see.
That's really the big story for me, is that it wasn't a secure win for Splice by any means, folks. It was Splice, taking tooth and nail fights at times. That really big comeback on Frozen Guard with the Dread Serpent into a Strix kill, Ricardo pulling off some Strix flanks, and then on top of that as well, this Dredge pick, throwing everybody for a bit of a loop. But we saw it banned on that Ice Mines map versus Fnatic. And we're seeing Kanga now coming up to play in this next set. I wonder if that'll be on the docket.
It's an interesting one, because moving on to the set we're about to see, it's a couple of teams where we kind of don't feel is as much of a toss-up as far as who will win. I think a lot of people giving this to Kanga and the way that they've been playing, Cryptik having obviously to go up against some teams that weren't very. I mean, it's not necessarily that they've had the hardest route to get here, but we do expect Kanga, just with their past, to be successful in this moment.
I mean, in their Fnatic games as well, they came out looking very strong, and Fnatic obviously notoriously one of the stronger teams from the EU region, and with Cryptik coming in as one of the PGS teams, I mean, in your mind you should think that that Kanga should have the easier game here, but
right.
I mean, anything can change at LAN.
And that's the interesting thing, Vox. Are you one of those guys that has settled this already for Kanga, or do you think there's still a lot of games to be played?
I think there's still a lot of games to be played, potentially. First and foremost, because these two teams, they're from the opposite side of the world, right? It's not a team that Kanga gets to scrim in the regular. And whilst they've had practice playing against Fnatic, who kind of dictate a lot of the European meta, I think, that we're seeing in this tournament so far, being the top team from region in this specific LAN event, I do think there's still a little bit more up in the air right there. Additionally, Kanga dropped a map to SK. We can't forget about that.
Yeah.
Sure, it was a heavily counterpicked game, some amazing play with some flanks from SK, but I think that we've got to really remark on the fact that they have the potential to drop games. They've not looked completely, fractureless. They've not looked this really cohesive unit that we might have expected for them coming into this, and as a result, there are chinks in the armor there that we could see being broken open.
There certainly are, and a big conversation is who's just going to show up today. Renegades and Splice, that was a very tight matchup, and we saw some new champions introduced into it, notably Dredge. Bees, how did you feel about that Dredge pick, and has that kind of opened the floodgates for the sets later on today?
Well, with our sets earlier, we did actually decide to ban out the Dredge. For us, I think it was something that we knew was going to come later into the season, maybe more of a pocket pick for some teams.
Yeah.
But when you mix the Dredge with a Torvald, the damage output is actually just insane. And when you see that on a map like Ice Mines, where it's typically quite a closed map, the Dredge just has such free reign to just continuously put damage out onto the tanks that are trying to push to get towards him.
How do you get to him, right?
Exactly, yeah.
With a lot of difficulty, right? You can either rely on flankers, but then you're being locked off, especially on a map like, as you said, Ice Mines, or you're relying on maybe a champion like Khan to just get an overpower off and immediately swing the fight, and it's very, very difficult, right? You've got to go, I think if you're fighting into a Dredge, this is maybe counter to what you might be expecting. You're either trying to play the long game and not get close to them, or you're going, let's get up in Dredge's grill, let's not give them any room to breathe and set up that spam and just pressure them out immediately. But in doing so, if you group up around them, Dredge just goes, I'm going to broadside my feet, shoot my feet, and what do you do?
Yeah.
Now this is Cryptik's map pick here, and they have Splitstone Quarry selected. A map that could bring some interesting compositions into the fold here. I mean, I could see Dredge working, I could see Snipers working, I could see a lot of different champions excelling here. What do we keep our eye on heading into this match?
I mean, Dredge definitely is a good pick on this map. He has the high ground control very easily, so for flanks to get towards him takes a lot of energy. They expend a lot of cooldowns to get towards him. He can just teleport straight back out after that, and the continuous poke towards the point fight is very strong for Dredge on this map. I think you're definitely going to want to see a strong point tank come out in the Inara or something. So very could possibly, if your second pick, to just ban out the Inara, take away that strong point tank away from the enemy team.
We were talking a little bit about Kanga and how Zaga had a tough time against Cryptik because they didn't really like to play against the European style of drafting. It kind of countered what they like to do intuitively. But on Kanga's side, they actually do prefer more of the European style, Vox.
Yeah, and I think that's just because we call it the European style, right? But overall, rather than it being the European style, it's just the most effective style this moment, right?
That's no. I won't allow that.
Use on top.
Won't allow that.
No, but it is
I won't allow
a very
that.
effective style.
Hear ye. Judge Rayner says no.
It's really interesting, though. I think that we've remarked about how, like, Dredge is a real factor on this map. You know, strong frontline is a real factor on this map. For me, it's all about the flanks. We've seen Androxus really succeed and kind of fall short on this map so far. And I think it comes down to whether you can pull off some good flank play here to really turn the tide of battle.
Well, we're getting into the picks and bans here. Vox thinks the European style is just simply the most effective style. It's hard to negate that.
Are you gonna argue with the two Brits on the table?
I mean, this is I'm already outnumbered.
Can we put it to a Democratic
We're on the
vote?
EU takeover right now.
Yeah. Well, let's think about this here too, because I think that question gets a lot of jokes, but I think there is a distinction in the way that North America and Europe prioritize drafts, and I think that does sometimes change your effectiveness when going up against certain teams, and sometimes it's familiarity. I mean, we've seen Armada be so successful against teams like Sour and things like that because of the fact that they kind of play with these guys. They know them. They're all looking for the same things. Nobody's surprised by anything.
Yeah. I'm actually very surprised by these bans, though, at the moment. We see the Willow ban initially from Cryptik, which would initially lead me to believe that they want to get the Inara pick, because the Willow counters the Inara so hard with the dead zone on the point. But Cryptik have decided to ban out the Inara themselves.
So my big question here is that maybe Cryptik are looking for a first pick that isn't that front line, and they might be forced into maybe a Barrack as a point attack. And Bees, you mentioned behind the scenes a little bit earlier that with an absence of Terminus right now, we're really looking at Inara and Barrack as the only sort of point front lines available, and that's really affecting like how people are going into drafting front lines.
Oh, most certainly. For us, particularly as a team, we're very much onto the EU plot of using a point tank and then an aggressive tank. So for us as well, and when you take the account that the Barrack is quite heavily countered by the Inara as well, Barrack is having a very, very tough time at this LAN.
So I'm wondering if that might be what Cryptik looked for, but actually they're going for the Fernando, and look at that win rate right there on there. Pick rate 78%, win rate 57 at this point. Fernando, a very popular and very good aggressive front line.
Strong play, man, and that is something that Cryptik have set the tone with. Ash having to be taken in response for Kanga. They've got two picks here, and it's the Leon that they prioritize. How do you feel about that?
The Ash is definitely going to have to have been a priority pick in this situation here, because now in Ash you can secure both your point tank or your aggressive tank, depending on how you want to play it. And if they'd gone for any other tank in that situation, then Cryptik could have taken the Ash away, and Kanga really would have been in a tough situation if that had happened.
Cassie and Ying
I'm
locked in box.
so shocked, Evan, to see Ying and Cassie going second pick here for the first pick team. My goodness, this is my shocked face right now. Really not so.
Sensing some sarcasm.
Just a smidgen right now, but this is really what we've come to expect. Is the first pick team, they get a really good solid frontline pick online.
Yeah,
they get a Ying,
boy.
and they get a neutral flex. But Kanga right now, Ash Leon looking at the Maldamba, leaving their last pick frontline open, looking to hover a Dredge right now is a bit of a bold move from me.
Yeah, and it's the Ruckus here that's also being debated. I think Leon and Ash fill out some decent pressure. But Maldamba here locked in, and the Ruckus are going to give a lot of flexibility and a lot of damage to whatever Cryptik decide to fill out their front line draft with.
And I mean, Kanga still have the possibility as well of taking the Ash as a flexible pushing tank rather than a point tank. So if Cryptik, I mean, they already have the Cassie, which is quite backline, so they have quite an aggressive comp now to push into that.
I really like that, actually. That's one of the things which we saw SK succeed with Invocal playing a very unpressured Cassie on this map, and now Cryptik looking for potentially a Strixhover right now. They could go for the Talus, they could go for flank, or they could go for damage here. I really like the idea of getting some flank online. They know if they're going to be playing into a Dredge, they potentially, or even something like a Drogoz, which we should mention is available. They can't leave them to just be free and unpressured, so they need that pressure, and the Talus is the right one to do it.
Yeah, and I like the Barrack here. You mentioned it was a point tank, and so Fernando, I would guess, is going to be a lot more aggressive here in this lineup.
Yeah, most certainly. The Fernando will be the aggressive tank here, the Barrack will be the point tank. And I mean, as they've elected to ban out the Inara as well, the Barrack's going to have a much safer game as point tank, rather than having to go up against his counter in Inara.
Victor locked in at the very end for Kanga. That's a shot of Ninum and Chronix, and then Joel's right to the far left of them. The core that's going to have to perform pretty heavily today. Looking at the drafts, start with you, Vox. Who do you think has the better edge in matchup number one?
You know, I think Team Cryptik drafted really well with bans early on to set up their Barrack for a point objective tank, but I think the Victor for Kanga right now with the Leon is going to give them the edge.
Yep,
Bees,
I agree.
Feel the same way?
I agree.
All right, well, let's see if Kanga can bring it home or if it's going to be a stunner And they'll be able to respond here with the Europeans going against the Australians. Let's send it away to our casters to cast the game, Gormizer and Pretty Hair.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Big brains on the desk there. Do you agree with them?
I mean, again, the drafting is very solid, but I'm actually more interested in the playstyle, and I think that Kanga got things that fit their players a little bit better than what Cryptik were able to pick up. At the end of the day, that's where the decisions, I think, are going to be made. And
That's
I think
where the
Kanga
game is
has
settled, man.
not only that advantage just because of, I mean, pooling all of OCE's knowledge, but their players are phenomenal. For Splitstone, this is a really solid draft.
You know, you bring up a good point, and one that we've sort of hit on from time to time in this event. It's the region versus the region. Where are these guys from? Do they play each other often? Is there any familiarity between these teams? In this case, no, not really. These guys are from opposite sides of the globe, Australia and Europe. Going off head-to-head here, both of these teams hailing from the Global Series. Kanga, of course, a little bit more decorated in their region. And I'm getting some Dethroner vibes here as we see Fernando charge his way to the enemy high ground here, but no first blood this time.
I mean, Toot immediately in their face doing whatever he can. Grafias trying to find a little bit of blood, but no first blood just yet. No kills coming out from these teams, playing it very cautiously. I like the way Kanga's retreated, and that was a beautiful grenade.
There it is. Good big damage coming out onto 2-2. Corlin's already found Sadzik. I mean, this is pretty aggressive. The dive coming out right now. Ruckus might be able to confirm this kill as well. Joel will track Chemiker down in the back side of the fight. They will lose Rhino in the process, but Kanga capturing all the while.
Being able to pick up 33% rising as they find control, and that zone as well. You get rid of the healer, you almost get rid of both front lines. I think you do get the Barrack, you don't quite find the Fernando, but you get a really solid zone out of all of that. Push them back at least a little bit, and now you have the vantage points. You can set up wherever you want. Corlin specifically has been probably where you want your eyes to be. Where are those shots falling? Because he's going to make a big difference.
There it is, 90% on the objective already, Gormizer, but Rhino in some trouble again, tracked down. But again, Joels will bail him out. The guys from Kanga are always finding frags on other places on the battlefield. Everyone pretty low under the bleachers right now, but the Ying clones are handling that. Ultimates starting to come up, and I think they're going to be involved here. Look at this, a couple of people already north of 84 people on Kanga are coming up on their ultimates, and that might just be what they need to get it done.
I mean, 95%, just a couple more bullets will give that barrage over, at least for the Barrack. And if you need to get someone off the point, that's perfect, but no one was standing on it. Everyone on Cryptik was just around the side. All it took was a step onto the point, and Kanga are able to take it.
Ooh, did he do it to him? He did! Nit him from downtown, threads the grenade through the window, and finds Graphy S dialed in right now. Let's look at the damage charts and see who was able to run away with that after the first point fight. Cassie, look at this, Uber Spady, the man who comes from the PPL, played a little bit for NIP when they were kind of running through trials, trying to figure out who they wanted to have that 5th spot on their squad, has managed to keep up.
Being able to find all the damage is one thing, but it's the placements of these grenades. The way Ninom is playing right now, in conjunction with Corlin, they are just piercing people constantly. They're either anti-healed or they're taking a grenade damage every single time they step, show their face, try to even find cover. Chemiker can't really feel safe around the corner.
Oh my god, dropping the enlightenment, but the dash in from 2-2. Beautiful peel provided. Is the Immortal ready? They will not pop it. Look at the aggression from Kanga Esports. They're dropping almost everything that they've got to keep this push alive. They're getting the frags, Gormizer, but they are officially out of steam. Their ultimates are not available, and none of them are really even close.
There's a certain point where maybe you're going a little too fast, right? Like, it feels like Kanga had a lot of momentum, and then that momentum took over for them. They go a little bit too far, and then the rest of them die. And we've mentioned mid-round buys, but with maps like Splitstone, maps like Ice Mines, like, it's a long time to get back. You give a lot of advantage to a defending team, letting them have time to set up and letting them come through. But that does mean you have the Wrecker 2, the Cot 2, and depending on if anyone else dies, I mean, you look at Ninom, Cot 2, as well as a little bit of Haven to make sure he can stay alive a little bit better.
I can't necessarily fault them for this playstyle, though, Gore. In an unfamiliar matchup, the more time you give to learn, the better, I feel like, for this defense team. When they're on the back foot, I feel like you want to try and keep them there. You want to slam this one home. It's not often that you see conversions on Splitstone. Well, let's get one done. Let's change the game here. Let's be Kanga Esports.
And now they're being able to get aggressive. Dome Shield has been popped at least to try and find defense. Rhino is going to go down as Toot finds him from above, and 15 seconds left. You're going to have to start throwing bodies or give up on this push. Even though it's so close, I'm not sure Joel's is going to be tanky enough to do it.
I mean, we saw in that last set, Splice absolutely, I believe it was G-Bunny, popping off when they got the illusory rift They just got Dome Shield. That is such a different ultimate from Illusory Rift when you look at how quickly it's able to charge and the types of situations that you use it on.
It is very specifically for those kinds of defenses. And a lot of teams will save it, especially once they lose the point for, okay, if they look like they're going to convert, then we'll do our best not to use it, but if we have to, we'll pop it. But it is I'm going to get you off the point. I'm going to take control of this fight again just to give me a little bubble that I am safe in. This is my area. You can't come in here or else you're going to flamethrower to death. And getting rid of that makes a huge difference because when you look at the other side, like you said, Illusory Rift, Barrick's health bar isn't big enough that I think it's going to matter.
Divine Right 5 here. Those 5-point cards, those are kind of the defining factors of a champion's loadout and the play style that player is looking to play. I recognize this from young FRZ God's loadout. Not saying that he owns this card or he has coined it, but it is worth noticing the similarities between these players' loadouts here. Death and Taxes brings that anti-heal straight up out of the gate. The Enlightenment comes through. It finds some damage, Gormizer, but it's mostly Immortaled away.
And now Immortal actually paying a lot of weight. Tutu going to be able to get a ton pushed on to Rhino, but it's not going to be enough to find the kill just yet. Looking for the kill. Graphies is going to be able to find 2 Ninum and Jules, and that swings things heavily in favor of Cryptik.
When Talus gets momentum, that's just a scary thought, to be honest with you. Cryptik use basically everything there, though. Kanga still have some firepower in the tank. No comeback mechanic involved, but it is still kind of running away for Team Cryptik. They're at 81% to nothing. Shield goes up. There it is, the assert dominance, but it's a little bit off the objective. 99% here. The touch will happen. The healer is already dead for Team Cryptik, and the front line is collapsing. The zone has been chewed through, but Graphies able to find 2. Answers back. Ash hunting for this Cassie. Will she be able to get it? She will.
And now the shots are actually going to be solid. Graphies was not in a good position. They get aggressive, but 99% is a big number to overcome. We've often called it the 6th man in the fight. You can't leave the point. One person has to be on there. We've seen, even in this LAN, too many times, a team just a step away from that giant circle, and it will mean the end of the round for you, or at least the end of the ability to capture, and you're going to have to find yourself a defense.
They have to walk straight into a Hexafire, though. Gormizer, Rhino not sure where he wants to go with that shoulder bash, trying to keep a lid on this Talus. Look at all the low HP targets for him to shoot. Just pick one. Rhino takes it down. Stays on the objective, though. Overtime expiring. Someone's got a touch from Cryptik, and they don't. Kanga Esports will go back-to-back on the objective.
I like Rhino's precedent that he sets there as well, because he keeps Talus worried about getting knocked back into the fidget spinner of death. If you fall back into that drill, it's an instant death. And the best person to do it on this team is going to be Ash. You knock him back, you keep him controlled, he's going to die. And Graphies had to play around that angle knowing that's what Rhino was looking for.
It's a delicate dance for sure, and had Kanga converted in that last round, I mean, that would have undoubtedly been a capture for Team Cryptik.
Oh, yes.
And they would have been on the offense here. Comeback mechanic would have made a big difference. I mean, they were up, what, 90% to basically nothing there. It was only on that zone that they fall apart, and that's such a delicate balance, right? I mean, sometimes if you zone just slightly too aggressively, that could be the end of you. Illusory Rift is popped by Ying, and it looks like Kanga will just wait it out.
It's the perfect time. It's one of those ults we often compared to how do you lose a fight with a Fury ult, right? When that Inflame is popped, you can't really lose too much unless you're just outclassed. I feel like the same thing can truly be said about an Illusory Rift. When you have that much healing being pumped into
especially
you,
early on,
you really shouldn't be losing the fights until COT 3s start coming online. You're constantly being pressured out. Death and Taxes alleviates a little bit of it, but it's still only going to be a couple people at most.
You're right. It allows them to have at least one target they can take down. Barrage damage is good onto the healer. Sadzik has simply got to be quicker on the trigger. He cannot be getting taken down by this barrage. It's good, but it rarely gets kills. It oftentimes will just soften people up, soften targets. Look at this Toot so low here. He could be taken down. Graphies goes for the dive here. He's good for 1. He's looking to jump down again, maybe be good for 2. Not popping the overcharge. What are you doing, son? You got to get that DPS out onto the field. And Graphies, a blessing in disguise, being knocked onto the low ground, but Kanga, they sneak it through. Oh my goodness gracious, losing sight of the objective there. Cryptik are going to go down 3-1.
And there's so many moments I actually liked we got to see what Graphies was doing because there's so many low health bars. It's who do you target? I mean, right now, this Ruckus is almost dead. You do get Corlin. Chronix is dead. You kill him off, but look at Rhino. Like, the 2 front lines that were low get healed back just enough that they're able to stay in the engagement and find the fight. And even though he had a stellar start to it, it definitely ended. I mean, even finding kills, just not where you want it to be. Maybe about 10 feet slightly off of the objective.
I mean, when he gets that overcharge rolling, he is certainly a force to behold. 8 and 3. Grafias having one of the more effective Taluses we've seen of the tournament so far. But his hesitation to use Overcharge there in those last couple of moments, Gord, that was very surprising to me. I mean, that's the whole point of the Legendary selected by Talus.
And being able to find that pressure, and this is what it can do. And you find the right moment. Unfortunately, that's not the right moment. Grafias is just killed outright.
He got exploded here on the low ground. Toot Toot shield is down. Rhino is on a 10 streak, and he is rampaging through the back line here on the objective. Kanga Esports will be locking things down. Comeback mechanic is in play, but so far it is all Australia. 36% on the objective. With zone control as well, you've still got Rhino beating down on the backline here, keeping a lid on everything.
And exactly the way Kanga needed to start this round. You give any room to Cryptik, and comeback mechanic is going to play a big role. We were talking about it last round when they didn't have it, how big that could change. Right now, they're at the 90% mark. They're going to keep rising. They're finding the kills.
The touch is down. Assert dominance here on the objective. Get out of my point, Barrick. You're small, you're weak, you're frail. Let Ash get it done here on the objective. The true power comes through, but it's 99% for Kanga Esports, and I just don't know if they can get her done. The kill feed keeps filling up, and it's all red. It's all Australia, and it's all the time. 99 finally expiring down. Grafias tried to get in there for a touch, but it's futile, and the boys will high five as a 4-1 lead is claimed in game number 1.
Looking incredibly strong from Kanga that time around. I mean, the first round, it's kind of like, okay, they were definitely strong on the point, didn't quite get the push. Where do they end up? And it was all dominance from that point on. Even with the couple of slip-ups they made, the biggest target they had was Sadzik, and every single time they could isolate him, that Ying was dead. I think it was like 4 deaths going into this, no kills, barely any assists.
She really struggled, getting picked often and early. Kanga having some really good moments there, but maybe some little slip-ups by Cryptik as well. You have to say, this tournament has gone largely 2-0. It's best of 3. It's all about the momentum. It's all about moving quickly. And in a matchup where these teams don't know each other super well, momentum is all that much more important. Let's send it back over the desk and get ready for game number 2.
Well, that was a fast one, and I think a lot of people expected maybe a longer game, but Kanga came out swinging, and their draft was largely just a lot better than Team Cryptik's.
Yeah, most certainly the draft played a very big part, I think, in this one here. I think as well from the side of Cryptik, the champions they have is like a very telegraphed idea of what they're going to do, so it makes it very easy then for Kanga to counteract what the game plan of Cryptik would have been in that match.
Yeah, we kind of called the Barrack pick very early on in the draft. It was kind of obvious as to what they were looking at. I mean, sure, you start with Fernando Yi and Cassie, that's a really strong core, but the Talus pick on Splitstone Quarry, I mean, Bees, we talked about this. This is one of Talus's worst maps. Yep. You're playing into a Victor. You know it was going to be like a high ground backline damage champion, because Kanga, exclusively in their online phase of the OCE PGS, they just didn't pick flanks. They picked 4 flanks total, not just 4 unique flank picks. 4 flanks total. So you know it's going to be blackline damage. You don't go for a flank that can get up to that high ground like an Androxus, and you don't pick the Drogos just to go for the sheer out damage potential, which was really bizarre.
Was that the big thing you saw, Grafias, and that Talus pick? Was that what threw it off?
I wouldn't say necessarily threw it off, but like it is such a bad map for him. I think statistically it is actually his lowest win rate per map for Talus on Splitstone. And the thing is, you have to have your ultimate to do something. Yeah. If you want to take out the victor on the high ground, I mean, they did it phenomenally on the second point. Fair play to Cryptik. They used their ults amazingly on the second point. And but to continuously do that every single time, to know that you need your ults to win a point fight on this kind of map, very difficult.
Didn't have great mobility as well on a map that kind of requires it. And Androxus there would have served the purpose of being able to get some base dismounts and then get back to safety, whereas the Talus and Fernando kind of just had to stand at that balcony, and that allowed assert dominance to happen for Os Rhino and Vox. I mean, that was just a huge retake, but also just a momentum swing for Kanga.
Absolutely, and we saw a couple of those come through for Kanga when they were able to get back in, able to touch, able to reset, and also just pressure very early on. I mean, we saw that kind of momentum start early for Kanga in that first objective fight. Yeah. Whenever you have a Lian going into the enemy backline, we've seen this a couple of times so far, that's when things kind of go wrong, but all the while you had this very sort of strong objective hold from Team Cryptik that was just being battered and bruised by Ninim on Victor, who turns out to be our Steel Series MVP of the game.
He was phenomenal. He had some great moments, and you could tell that just the angles he was able to play and the lack of pressure he had was going to result in a big, big game. I believe he was 12-3, and stuff like that just says, yeet. Well, you're just on one, right? You're just feeling it, and no reason not to be. You're just aiming at this point, and we all know Ninim can do that pretty well.
Yeah. Very good map for Victor here as well, because it removes the stone control from Cryptik as well.
Right.
Then Fernando has to push stone
was
basically, because if he pushes lava, it's far too long a flank for him to actually do something effectively. So they know for a fact Fernando's going to be under the stone, and then obviously with the grenades coming in from Victor, the damage is just so consistent and easy for them.
And one of the things, actually, which we did remark on, we saw yesterday in that SK matchup, Dethrona would go up and push through the shields and kind of get to the backline to throw out big scorch fireballs. This time around, Fernando for the side of Team Cryptik, Tutu just didn't make it far enough up the ramp, and you're sitting there watching this big Ashe sort of Fortress Breaker shield sit there, protect the Ashe, he's pumping out consistent damage. Maybe you're protecting the Lian as well if Corlin's playing on the low ground, and it was a very effective strat from Kanga, but Team Cryptik didn't seem to know how to deal with it.
So, you know, we talked about Kanga a little bit ahead, that they were trying to get back to some former glory. That glory really hasn't seen the light of day for the Australian esports scene in Paladins in over a year. And right now, with a win here and putting themselves into the next phase to be able to potentially qualify after their next wins, do you think that this could be the run Kanga makes to get back into the top international team kind of conversation?
I mean, I think they're looking very strong at the moment. I think throughout the tournament as well, they've kind of progressively started to look stronger and stronger. Obviously, the upset with Fnatic, but I mean, that does tend to be expected when you come up against Fnatic. Very strong team. And I mean, I would love to see the guys up at HRX again. I think they always provide fantastic games to be watched, whether they win or lose.
Right.
It is always a close game when you're playing with Kanga.
They're going to be going up against that Splice roster as well, Vox, if they do win. We're still getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I'm just saying, you know, the path to getting there, it's possible for these guys.
Definitely.
It really is. And I mean, if they go through and they do go up against that Splice roster, just looking at the potential for a bracket run here as well, they'd be facing Splice, and then they'd be moving on as well to see who drops down from one of those upper bracket games. And that's going to be a really tough one as well, folks, because, I mean, just think about the potential that we've got in those two. Fnatic Virtus Pro, Space Station Gaming, and Armada.
Yeah.
If we do see Kanga advancing, they would be facing Space Station or Armada. And at that point, again, it's just more of these international, maybe a little bit wildcard regions. And we've seen already now Kanga, some Ruckus prioritization, increasing that win rate right there. Something which could be very heavily contested between them and SSG, but that is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
It is, and Cryptik still have a chance to respond, but what we saw in Game 1 didn't necessarily get us excited about Game 2. But Frozen Guard, it's a different map, it's a different day, it's a different temperature. It's very cold over there, and you know, if I'm going, I need to bring my jacket.
Wow, 2 in 1 day, Evan. This is the third time we're seeing Frozen Guard. I mean, this is also...
and Ice Mines as well.
Absolutely. We can't forget about that. But, you know, this is the only other team besides Splice and Renegades now that have played on this map was SK Kanga in that first set. And Kanga, this is where they brought out the Grover. This is where they brought out the kind of pocket protect the Victor strategy.
Yes.
And it was destroyed by the very flank-heavy composition of, at that point, SK Gaming. That was the only map in that matchup which SK won. I'm looking towards Team Cryptik to maybe have done their homework here. Go Kanga. They like playing this very backline heavy composition, folks. They like playing this composition which is spread out, frontline, no man's land, safe backline. Team Cryptik need to find a way to get up in their grills, and honestly, this is a map where Talus could actually do some work.
Yeah, most definitely. A very flat base map where Talus doesn't have to worry about the verticality of finding someone on the high ground. He can just push straight into them and feel a lot safer in doing so.
So what's the value here? What do you go for? You said that their first pick ban phase didn't support them, and they shouldn't have banned the Inara. What did Cryptik do here to change things up for Kanga?
I don't know. I mean, if it's Cryptik first pick again, I just think Inara is just so safe on lands. LAN, you have a little bit of LAN nerves, and you kind of just, it makes it a little bit harder to coordinate and do the game plans that you have perfectly set in your mind.
Right.
So when you take the Inara, you just have that safety and stability of knowing that it's the enemy team that has to play to the point to kill the remainder of the team and then come back for the Inara afterwards.
Here's my counterpoint, though, on this map. We know that Kanga likes to play a very safe point. I'd actually argue that if Team Cryptik are going to ban Inara on any map, it would be probably a good look to maybe take it away on this one and then play double aggro and just force this Kanga roster out of their comfort zone. But they take away the Khan here, and we saw the power of what Khan could bring to the table on Frozen Guard previously. It's a reliable pick, a lower win rate than we had expected at this point in the competition, but still very useful in the hands of people who know how to utilize it.
Cryptik facing defeat here too, just to keep in mind. If they do lose this one, it's all or nothing.
So
Yep.
security, right? That's the name of the game. If they can just get that first pick Inara on, we'll have to see if Kanga actually do end up prioritizing the Ying here and try and strip that away. That could be a big talking point.
Now here's on the table. You don't
Wow,
like the
look at
first pick
that.
Fernando bees.
Inara's gone
Oh,
though.
I don't know. In this situation, though, could be.
still
I mean,
like it?
personally, I would say maybe Ash is a little bit better on this, and the fact that if they do go for that kind of Grover pick again, you know that they're going to have to be grouped up to receive their healing. They're not
Right.
going to be super split. The Ash has a very easy job of dashing into any part of the map on Frozen Guard, and then also with when you have Fortress Breaker, she's using a blast shot in her auto attacks, which is
Right.
a very easy court spread,
Right.
which is very good against a Grover.
So we're looking at potentially, this is the big decision. What do Cryptik not want to give up, right? And what are they giving up by taking the Fernando or the Ashe in the first pick? I doubt it'll be anything else. Kanga, they're probably going to respond by stripping
Go
away
ahead.
double aggro
Keep
frontline.
talking while
But
you can.
hello, it's the
Nice.
Ruckus first
Ruckus.
pick that comes through.
I mean, my thought, I was going to just ask you guys about this. We see a 69% win rate for Ruckus. That was a difference maker for Joel's. I was wondering, you know, we used to see a meta where EU, especially, were first picking Ruckus because of the flexibility that he provided, and you knew you were going to be able to get a secondary tank, and all the good ones were already banned.
Yep.
I mean, do you like that? I kind of like this, actually, instead of the
I like the
Fernando.
Ruckus. I don't think the Ruckus is necessarily going to be a bad pick. Like, as you said, his win rate is so phenomenal at this land. Like,
Right.
it'd be hard to argue that he's not a good
A
first
good pick.
And also Frozen Guard run, just the set
Run
earlier,
up and
Ruckus
follow
was on
me
the side
in.
of Splice, did pull out a win there.
Well,
Ash,
G-Bunny was
reliable
phenomenal.
for, oh yeah, absolutely. Just
ready
some
for
of the
this
Hexifiers to zone and force everybody out. Ash and Cassie coming in now for Kanga. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't maybe look towards Ash and Fernando, because they are effectively giving maybe Ying Fernando
just
over to
can't
Cryptik
stay
here.
away
We'll
from
likely
me.
see that locked in at this point, but this to me says that Kanga want to get their comfort zone for DPS
Don't
online.
hesitate to ask.
And it does seem to be the Fernando Ying grabbed up for Cryptik here. Kanga mentioned, you'd mentioned the Grover Bees, but Kanga had actually kind of said that behind the scenes, that wasn't really a full lineup they would have gone for because the spread out nature of the Grover heals really hurt their front line.
Yep.
And so it seems like the Maldama getting prioritized here, but the Torvald, a little something spicy for Kanga.
I think this works very well because you have the innate cauterize into the Cassie kit, so then she can take the Wrecker, which is going to be really good to burst down the Ruckus, and then when you add on top of that a Torvald shield onto the Cassie,
Right.
if she takes big game Cassie against a Ruckus, who's very easy to hit with the disengage and then into the next shots,
Hey,
they're going to do a
let's
lot of
fist
damage to
bump
that
real
Ruckus
quick.
now.
Cryptik need to respond here, Vox. This
Yeah,
is
they
big.
really do, and I think the Cryptik need to be very well aware that actually this is where the Talus could come out on really to play. We saw it on the Ice Mines, but we know that it's potentially going to come out here and be Torvald enabled in this very flat, horizontal, linear map. So Cryptik looking for a bit of flank pressure themselves. The
Wow.
Eevee is locked in.
That's
It's a little
a-
risky for me.
That's a brave pick going into the Eevee.
It is
Notoriously, Eevee is very bad against Torvald because of the silence.
Oh, man.
Eevee lives purely because of her survivability in her abilities in the game, and when you take that away from her, she's such an easy sitting target with such a low health pool.
I do like the Vivian, though, and I think what they're doing is giving a lot of kind of what we liked about Talus and Dredge in the other match on Ice Mines just previously with Splice. You have to pay attention to Vivian. You can't just let her fire on you. So that will give Eevee a little bit of room to operate, but how successful, that's the question.
Well, the thing is, I think the reason that they might have also gone into Eevee is to dissuade from a Victor pick, which was the last time when Kanga played it, they did go for the Victor, but I think the Talus was the more obvious choice right here because the flank pressure that you're able to put on is just so valuable.
He's good shred against the Torvald as well.
And the Vivian's personal deflector shield as well. If you're going into a Wrecker, that can be really, really critical to be able to make sure that she doesn't have that cover and can just sit there and blast down shields.
Eevee's going to be a little bit better, I think, on the zone as well. Some of those shots
Eevee's
do
phenomenal.
hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she can be so safe and push up so far, and Talus just cannot do that unless he has his Rune of Travel available, which is a very long cooldown.
Right.
So if you don't have that available and you can't push forward to then zone, he's very unsafe pushing that far up.
Well, guys, are you still giving this one to Kanga to finish off the set 2-0?
Absolutely.
I want to give this one to Cryptik. I
Wow.
want to see the Vivian plays. I want
Okay.
to see that 100% Vivian win rate on LAN.
It's been the Armada secret strategy that has worked 100% of the time. Let's see if Cryptik can pull it back and take this to a best of 3. It's Pretty Hair and Gormizer on the call.
This is surely going to be a good one, Gormizer. We've got a split vote on the desk. It's pretty rare, I think, to see that, to be quite honest with you. Most of the time, we end up going almost all the same way. I have to agree with Vox, though, and I believe Rainday went this way as well. Kanga looking good. I mean, what do you dive on as Eevee here? You've got a Silence to worry about. You've got a Dread Serpent to worry about. You've got Cassie who can pop her ultimate. It's very hard. Like, you don't even have a great target to drop your ult on, I feel like.
You either have to be one of the best EV players that you've ever seen, or you have to really hope that Corland is left pretty much isolated most of the time. Maybe the Talus, but a lot of the time you're not going to be finding the targets you want. It kind of feels as though you are waiting for these niche scenarios, maybe where you can come through, maybe to lock down. It's moments like this where you can make that difference.
Ninim has got to get in there. There has to be some pressure coming out from the Talus. I will say, early on, this is triple shielding and a lot of healing coming out from Cryptik. When these Wreckers get online for Kanga Esports, this could be a very different battlefield.
I mean, being able to use this mobility right now as Eevee is probably what's keeping her alive, but pop in the bubble. That is exactly what both teams need to do. Either Cryptik trying to get rid of what Torvald is providing, or on the side of Kanga, specifically looking at Talus for those 1v1s, being able to get rid of the emitter shield, being able to get rid of the Fernando shield as well. So a lot of control that can come through just from that one item.
You know what we're seeing right now, Gormizer? We're seeing defensive shields as people are exiting these fights. Shields trying to keep people alive. We're not seeing the shields and the go. The aggressive shield is what needs to change here. And look at that, an early true power coming through, but no overcharge to back it up. Gets the shield, going toe-to-toe with Kamiker, trying to rip through this shield. Runa travels out to safety. 1v1 on the backline support versus Eevee. It's an Eevee dream matchup. Even a little help from the Fernando Fireball. Ice Storm on the objective just to make sure. And Cryptik will get the go-ahead first payload.
I mean, it's definitely not the pick that you typically want into Torvald, especially in the composition Kanga have been able to pick up, but Uber's Payday is playing this Eevee exactly the way it has to. He's finding the right targets, he's making the right decisions at the right moments to be able to find people like Corland when they are off guard, when there's no bubble for him, when there is no safety net to keep that Cassie alive.
He's playing pretty safe right now as well. I don't think taking any scary engagements into the ice block. Just wait it out. Milk that full 3-second duration, baby. All that immunity frame all the time. And Uber Spady is just going to elect to stay all the way out. Ninim manages to fire back, finding 2 picks. The question here for me is, again, those items. When they come online for Kanga Esports, do you really, really feel like it's going to make a big difference on Cryptik's comp?
I feel like they're going to have to play not necessarily the exact same way, but like they're going to have to keep that careful nature.
Ninim's already got it.
I mean, you're going forward, record 2 right there. It's going to be matching up how well can the Vivian pop bubbles versus how well can Ninim pop bubbles, right? That's, I think, where this engagement honestly falls down.
There it is. Now trying to get the read on it. Eevee Runa traveling back out. I think Ninim needs to not be afraid to go after the Ruckus here as well. He's got his record 2 online already, trying to get some heals coming through, but Cauterize already coming online for Team Cryptik, getting in there on a 2-2. This is the matchup right there. That Ruckus stands still. You just shred him to pieces. Same with Vivian. Get him out of here. Get him out of his face. Ninim finds 2 more. Goes for the Ying for a second there, but then swaps target on to Kamiker.
Well, now has the overpowered. I like the fact that he's kind of poking out Sadzik, trying to make him decide, do you want to go behind me? Do you want to go around me? Like, where are you trying to escape to? Unfortunately, not going to be able, I want to say full commit to that, but it's probably the right decision, especially with the regrouping from Cryptik. Toot is back, so you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself.
Top damage Talus, not something that we've been able to say very often in this tournament. Here it is, moving out in. Or the overcharge onto Kamiker, forces him out. I don't even believe Kamiker bothered to use his shield there. Record 2, overcharging Talus is not something you want to just throw away a big cooldown into. 20 seconds on the clock. Ninim keeping everyone at bay for the time being. Next overcharge will go into Toot here. He's trying to be careful, though, getting shot from a couple of different sides here. The healing, look at this for Team Cryptik. The Ying ultimate keeping everyone sustained, alive, healthy, and happy.
Runa travel used perfectly right there, but it's not going to be enough. Ninim does still go down. Graffies going to be able to find the kill, and now overtime sticking here. Kanga have lost 3 members. 2 of them aren't going to be up for still even longer. That is going to be an important assert dominance just to hold on to, but also because they don't have her the next round.
Playing with fire here. Cassie needs to be careful. Graffies has him dialed in. He's got the sensor drone out as well. Ninim can't get the kill in the back line, but Chronix can. He finds the support. 4 seconds on the bubble here. Talus really needs the help. He's going to go down, and Ninim silence at the ready. Eevee's getting close, but Kanga Esports will hold Cryptik for now. 1-1 on the scoreboard. And I would actually like to take a quick peek at the talents here just to make sure everything's going the way that we anticipate here. Specifically Torvald, I believe it's field study just based on how long it was lasting. We got a little Fortress Breaker, and it's actually Impulse, Cassie. The desk was talking a little bit about big game. What are your thoughts? I mean, do we want to go for Impulse or big game against this comp?
I think it's depending on who you want to target. And I think because they have the Talus, because Ninim's more than likely going to be bubbled most of the time, you don't need the big game. Corland's not going to be looking as much at the Ruckus and the Fernando. They're going to be looking more towards Uber's Payday, Graffies, Sadzik. Where can I find those kills? And for that, I think Impulse is going to be a little bit better for you. But I kind of like the versatility of big game, so honestly, either one I think works, but with their play style, Impulse feels a little bit more like a Corlin fit.
Well, I think it's a good thing they have Impulse now because Uber Spady is, I believe, 4-0 I saw, and we thought he was going to struggle, but not today. It's the PPL Eevee. It's, you know, one of his favorite champions without a doubt here. Big damage going down onto Kamikaze. The fear just to peel the shield off. Kamikaze has no shield cooldown. He will go down in the backline. Does everyone stay alive? No. Uber Spady drop ships in from above. Gets a double kill there. Looking for the triple. Uber Spady's going to get it. Almost gets the Ice Storm to lock it down. Will not be able to find the quadra kill. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Uber Spady looking really, really dialed in on this Eevee.
I mean, we always talk about Eevee, rhythm-based, something you love seeing, but also the fact that now you're on LAN, everything feels a lot better without being. And they're up against another Kanga. And I'm wondering if, you know, right now we've seen a lot of teams, I want to say, maybe hesitate to pull out the Eevee. If seeing this kind of performance from someone like Uber Spady maybe opens that door for some other teams.
It's a world-class Eevee. It really is. I know this is a team from the EU PGS, but this guy has played it in the PPL. This was his comfort pick. This was his go-to in the Paladins Premier League when he was subbing in for Ninjas in Pajamas. 2 for 1 so far. Here comes the scout as well. Stagger kill on Asadzik. Grafies goes down as well. And they know where Fernando is because of the scout from Cassie. 99% from Team Cryptik here.
Corland is
I almost wanted to see him wait for that and bait it out and just knock him off the map.
Yeah,
get him out of here.
Nice, honestly, just being able to find the kill, but they still get rid of Kamikaze. Corland is where my eyes are on, just because I feel like you're seeing Talus, you know what he's going for. Kamikaze, as well as Toot are his targets.
Yeah.
But Corland, going into this round, was 1 in 5.
Yes.
He was not doing too well. He wasn't finding the kills. Coming into this engagement, he's the one that kills off Uber Spady, and if they can keep that up, just that's his target. That's all he needs to focus
That's
on.
almost what you want from him. I mean, he's got the talent to do it. Corlin has got to step it up. He has got to assassinate Uber Spady as much as he possibly can. And look how the fight goes after the fact. Again, Wrecker's starting to come online for both of these guys. Shoutouts to Chronic as well for the Dread Serpent just to eat through that Kamikaze shield. Don't even make it a problem. Again, deep Dread Serpent, I believe, hits at least 2 or 3 people in the back line. The shield keeping Rhino safe from the Ice Storm. Eevee accomplishes nothing with her ultimate, but 2 kills with her base kit. Great stuff there. And Corlin will just throw in the towel. He realizes he's probably not going to be able to make it out of that one.
Grafies 1 tier of Wrecker away from what Vox, I think, had called Mega Wrecker, essentially being able to have the Sapper rounds and the Wrecker 3 for Vivian means that any shield that does go up typically is instantly popped, and that's big against a Talus, that's big against a Cassie.
I think she actually does like about 1,000 damage a bullet.
It is ridiculous.
So she's going
like
to
it almost literally instantly dies.
She's going to be 2-tapping these Torvald bubbles, and the bonus damage will die with them. That's the scary thing for Kanga Esports. They're not relying super heavily on the bonus damage here, and I think it's a good thought for them. And look at that, the bubbles, the shields, they're just exploding at this stage of the game. When these later game Wreckers come online, everything is evaporating. Look at the Fortress Breaker. It's broken itself, but you can't break through damage immunity. Assert dominance in the backline. Grafies, he's running out of ammo. This is a window of opportunity for Kanga Esports. They take down Eevee. Grafies, the last damage dealer left alive. He's managing to track down Torvald here. He tries to get in for the contest, but Kanga Esports with a vengeance will convert it home for a 3-1 lead.
And Sentinels were just popped. One of the things about Vivian that makes it so great is when you use your Sentinels, you get that charge back, but he's going to have like 12% at most, maybe 15. He was sitting at 10. He has them out. He's getting some shots, and then he dies. That is probably the worst scenario to be in for that, just because of the way they function. He gets pretty much no utility from that explosive damage.
Great shots there from Corlin. I mean, you got to say he stepped it up in that fight. He was 1 in 5 after round 1, 4 in 7 after round 2. So 2 and 2 in that round. Good enough, or would you like to see more?
I still want to see a little bit more, but if you can continue, like he's on an upward trajectory. He's doing good. Just keep up that kind of pace. Be able to find it. Grafies 20% now for those Sentinels. Uber's Payday, no Ice Storm, like no ults right now.
Can we watch? I want to watch Vivian just for a little bit here, just to see some of the super Wrecker. This is Wrecker 5. If any of these bubbles come out, you're going to see just the damage numbers, how high they really are. And I think Kanga are realizing it. The second they see Vivian, they just don't want to get a shield anywhere near that. Look at that, 679 per shot on the bubble. She's going to be ripping right through those. Now finds Torvald, puts him into the back line as well. And it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Kanga Esports. Here comes the Ice Storm. Uber Spady trying to lock down Torvald. Corlin gets caught out by Grafies, who is just a one-man wrecking crew. But The fear accomplishes nothing. Ash is on him. The pressure is here. Grafies knows that there's nowhere to go. Goremizer, is this it? Is the zone going to be enough?
I mean, the upside, downside of Vivian all showcased in one area. You can do a lot of damage, you can kill off shields, but unfortunately you don't move at all. That aggression from Talus might be enough, but Uber Speedy stays alive. They're going to come through. Toot dies before he can touch, though. 99, that's going to just tick into 100.
Wow, look at that. Quietly into that good night there. Kanga with a little shaky area in the first round of Frozen Guard, but other than that, you got to say a nearly flawless set from them. And you and I were talking before we even got into the broadcast here and got live. They have kind of the dream bracket getting set up for them. They have a really good chance at going top 4 now with this win.
I mean, being able to go here, moving forward, they'll face Splice, which a team, again, you don't really see them often against each other, but Kanga has showcased themselves against some of the top NA PPL teams in the past, and with the way things have been going, they look like a team that could definitely do it again.
I was speaking to them before the whole day began. Kanga says they have, and hopefully they don't curse themselves with this, something like a 90% win rate against Splice and the scrims that they have played. The Smitecasters say that is an absolute curse. Kanga are guaranteed to lose to Splice. You got to be careful with how you feel about going into scrims, but that does it. Kanga Esports dominate Team Cryptik in 2 games. Let's get it back over to the desk.
Well, phenomenal stuff there from Kanga, and you know, in my opinion, it's not much more, and I love Cryptik's performance and their effort. Good on them, and they did a great tournament here. I just think Kanga was probably a better team heading into this, and they showed it in both games here.
Yeah, I'd say from the results shown versus Fnatic, like statistically speaking, they were going to be a stronger team into the matchup.
Yeah, and absolutely looking at it as well. One thing that I do want to have to say, folks, it's really sad for me to be able to say this on cast. Vivian down to 50% win rate.
Oh no,
she's gone dead even. 2 for 2.
She was at 75 when I said she was 100, and she now has dropped again. So that's 2, but not for Armada.
No,
100%
so
for Armada right are still 100%, and you got to watch out for that. They've got their secret strat, and that's coming up relatively soon in 2 games. The next game we've got, of course, is the heavy hitter, Fnatic versus Virtus Pro. The next 2 on the docket, they qualify for HRX. If they win, that's huge.
That's a big game. A lot of pressure.
That's big, man. We're going to be on the desk for that one as well, and I think Gore will be joining us for that one. Actually, no, it might be all 3 of us. Might be all 3 of us still. No, actually, that'll be Nick and Gore. So that'll be fun. You'll be on the desk wrapping that up. Fox and I will be calling the action, but here's some post-game stats for you all. Uber Spady had a nice EV.
Oh, yeah.
You can't say he didn't.
Real good triple kill as well.
Just wasn't enough.
The thing that really I find quite remarkable, right, is like you have a round 2 cap, or round 2 objective fight. Uber gets a triple kill, and then Cryptik just don't zone. Like, and that's one of the things that we saw again on Splitstone Quarry as well, is that Team Cryptik just weren't capable. They didn't have a draft capable of zoning really well that time around. This time they just didn't zone, and Kanga find their way back in. Sure, you've got ultimates like True Power, which you've got to be aware of, because the Talus can just ninja their way back to the cap. But that should have been a point for Cryptik, and they let it slip through their fingers.
Admittedly, Bees, you know, you and your team through the ups and downs of this season have had trouble in some areas. Zoning is one that I'm sure you can have your very clear analysis on how the trouble that you've had has been trying to be solved. And what is it from an inside player's perspective? How is zoning very difficult? Is it something that a lot of teams just don't have a great grasp on? Is it rare?
I think the thing with zoning is it's knowing that each individual person should not have to be told the position they take, and it's whether your team and each individual team member knows their specific area with each individual champion. So it's very easy to be like, Alex, you zone left side this time, but then he needs to know that the next round he's not left again because of the champion he's on. Right. So it's very much like determining what kind of character you are. Like, say you're the Androxus, you need to be the very aggressive zoner. You need to be in their base as soon as they get out, dismounting them, and then when you come further back, you maybe have the Vivian at the next spot, and it's just kind of knowing intermittently every single placement that you should take as a team and as each team member. And then sometimes the lines get crossed, and that's what becomes hard in zoning.
I mean, what I was hearing is that it's not that easy. It's not that straightforward.
It really is. I mean, it seems straightforward.
It seems,
you stand here, you shoot here, but sometimes you put the wrong person in the wrong place. That's an easy pick for the enemy team. You don't have the right person in the right place. That's an easy pass-through for the enemy team. It seems like a simple concept, but it can be quite difficult.
Thanks for letting us know about that. It's one of the good things about having a player who's been in the comms there on the desk with us. And, of course, your Steel Series MVP, Chronic, shout out to him. Fantastic job. Now let's take a look at the bracket. As we head through, we've got 2 matches out of the way. They were some great matches, too, especially the first one with Splice taking down Renegades. They have gone home, and now Cryptik will be your second team of the day out of 3 that will be relegated as Kanga move on. But now it's Virtus Pro and Fnatic. Coming up next in this bracket, we've got SK Gaming and Big Egos to round out the day towards the end. And of course, Space Station and Armada will be after Virtus.pro Fnatic in just a little bit. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
These are going to be fun games.
These are going to be
really fun games. The
I'm
Fnatic
ready.
VP, I'm very excited to watch.
I'm really, really excited. Vox, what are you looking forward to most here?
It's Fnatic versus Virtus.pro,
Yeah.
right? I've got it. I'm the European.
D69 reunion, yeah?
Absolutely. We've got all 5 players
Woo!
back together. Everybody.
Make some noise!
Cue the music.
Was that the rave? That
Not
was the
again.
rave, man. I did it. All right. Well, we've got some interviews ready here to take a listen to Kanga Esports, Nick and Gormizer. Let us know how they're feeling after their win today.
Well, congratulations, guys. You've gotten through Cryptik, and we've actually been talking about it as kind of potentially a dream run for you here in the lower bracket. How are you feeling about your chances, especially after that dominating set, for being able to make it to HRX?
Yeah, feeling pretty confident coming into this losers bracket. It's unfortunate that we lost against Fnatic, but it's looking good so far.
Do you think you guys could have taken them down?
Yeah.
Oh man, maybe on a different day here. So we're talking a little bit about the opponents that you might have to face, but let's talk about this set. Were you expecting it to go kind of this swimmingly? I mean, you lost one objective there. You were on the offense, or not on the offense, only one time that entire set.
With our performance with Fnatic, we were really confident going into the set, and watching Cryptik's games, we didn't think they're good, but not as good as us.
There it is, guys. I mean, now looking forward, your next opponent is going to be Splice, and we were talking a little bit about before this day really started that you guys have something like a 90% scrim. Are you worried about having like that curse of the confidence maybe going into this, and is there any potential that you choke away that set?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Is the team feeling pretty focused today overall? Do you guys now feel like you have a real tangible chance at sticking around and making it to HRX?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, it's always great to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck to you in your future matches.
Thank you.
Thank you.